Well, hello. I know that we have a little winter storm going on here, Nancy, and this is just for you since we cannot gather together on the highways and byways today. So I thought I'd just make a special video that we would talk about. I mean, you can't respond. But we can talk about what went on during the past week. And I thought we would look at our report that we look at every week, looking first of all at our earthquakes. And we see that last Sunday we had 189 earthquakes. 189, and 109 of those were in Alaska. 15 were in Mexico, 14 in Chile, 4 in Ionian Sea, 2 in Oklahoma, 1 in Hawaii. And then we had strong ones in Chile, southwest of Africa, Fiji, Tonga, and New Caledonia. The solar winds were at 450, so they were up about 100 kilometers per second. We only had 1 in Hawaii, but 109 in Alaska last Sunday. Monday, it went up, it went down a little bit. We had 137, 61 of those in Alaska, 14 in Mexico, 7 in Chile, 3 in Ionian Sea, 2 in California, Wyoming, and then we had strong ones in Indonesia and southwest of Africa again, and New Caledonia. We know that last week New Caledonia was really struck hard with some strong earthquakes. You see also that the solar wind went up even further at 469. Then Tuesday we had 136 earthquakes. It went down in Alaska, 46 in Alaska, 16 in Mexico, 12 in the Ionian Sea, Nevada and California. And then we had strong ones in Indonesia, Carlsberg Ridge, North Mariana Island, Papua New Guinea, and Tonga. Solar winds were still high at 463. By the way, the power went off here for about a couple of hours this morning. Woke me up because my smoke detectors are on electricity, and so beep, 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 I kept hearing that, and it was getting on my nerves, plus the power supply for my modem, so all those beeping sounds, I had to hear those for a long time, and like I said, power was off for a couple of hours before it finally came on, and then kind of wavered a little bit there back and forth, but we see that it's about 30 degrees now. This is about 6:47 in the morning. Light snow, it says. I looked out, but I didn't see anything happening. But they're calling for snow throughout the day. So we'll just see how that goes and see how the weather transpires. But pray that no more power outages. Hope you still have power, because my furnace is on electricity as well, so that has an effect with that. Okay, so Wednesday, woo, we had 191. Alaska still is very high, 56, but New Caledonia had 31. Chile had 8, California had 7, Ionian Sea had 15. Then you had Idaho, Oklahoma, and 2 in Hawaii. But New Caledonia had a 7.5 with multiple aftershocks. going from 6.6 all the way down to 5.0. So it was really bombarded. So not only New Caledonia, Vanuatu, the Philippines, and 2 in Indonesia. So solar winds were still high, 454. Then Thursday, still had a lot of earthquakes, 166, 38 in Alaska, 12 in New Caledonia, 29 in Greece or Ionian Sea. Mexico had 13, Chile 11, California 7, then Hawaii and Oklahoma had 1 apiece. Indonesia had 5.5, but again, New Caledonia still receiving aftershocks from that 7.5 major super earthquake. Now, we said last week that there was supposed to be a CME that was coming off the sun that should give a glancing blow to the earth, but we know that even a glancing blow can create major shaking of the earth through volcanoes or earthquakes. So anyway, New Caledonia still shaking from 5.5 to 5.0. Then Chile had a 5.5. Philippines, Peru, Fiji Islands. So the solar winds came down to 376. But then on Friday, we had 106 with 33 in Alaska, 17 in Mexico. Chile had 7, but New Caledonia had 7. And as you can see, 5 of those were major or strong earthquakes from 5.7 to 5.0. Ionian Sea had 15, California 2, and Nevada 1. Strong one in Tonga and Vanuatu again. Solar winds were up 469. And then Saturday we had 107, 33 in Alaska, 18 in Mexico, 5 in Chile, 12 in Ionian Sea, 2 in Hawaii, and even Tennessee had 1. And New Caledonia still has a couple of major earthquakes, 5.1 and a 5.0. Japan had 2 earthquakes, strong earthquakes. And the solar winds went up even further, almost going to 600 kilometers. It was 584. So for the week, we had 6 earthquakes in Hawaii. We had 376 in Alaska, and we had 90 in Ionian Sea. But like I say, the major super earthquake came out of New Caledonia with the aftershocks that followed it. The average solar winds for the week was 467. So we had a total of 1,032 earthquakes for the week, according to the European model, and the USGS had 661. So I've left the earthquakes in from New Caledonia, and you can see how it really spiked things up. Even with the USGS, it just skyrocketed. And so I'll probably take this out just depending on how it keeps trending week to week, because this is, not a normal thing unless, it continues to do this. We'll just have to look. But even with the European model, you see that it skyrocketed. So on December the 16th, coming up, we have a comet 46P that will approach Earth less than 11.5 million kilometers away, making it one of the 10 closest approaching comets of the space age. That's a long way off, but still, that's one of the top 10 closest comets to the Earth. Okay, Wednesday, that's when we talk about New Caledonia, where we have those, it's a cluster of islands there, about 270,000 people in New Caledonia. It's a unique collectivity of France. And of course, it sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire. That's the arc of seismic faults around the Pacific Ocean, where most of the world's earthquakes and volcanic activity occur. But there were strong aftershocks following the magnitude 7.5 quake off of New Caledonia. And the reason for this, of course, is that it's located on the boundary of two of the world's major tectonic plates, the Pacific Plate and the Australian Plate. And these plates are colliding with huge force, causing one to slowly grind over, under, or alongside the other. So you've got these tectonic plates that are bumping into each other. And of course, like I said, the CMEs and the solar winds all have a contributed factor to that. Especially the CMEs, it can be very, very dangerous with these CMEs striking the earth, or even a glancing blow. So schools and houses on Vanuatu's southernmost island were damaged because of the tsunami that hit after the 7.5 earthquake. Now, in other news, on the morning of December the 8th, yesterday, Chinese time, a Long March 3B rocket is scheduled to blast off from their satellite launch center, propelling a lander and rover towards the lunar far side. And if this is successful, they'll be making history for being the first one to be able to do this. So, haven't heard any reports since, but that was the plan there. As far as war or terrorism, Israel exposed Hezbollah's terror tunnels, and they launched a major mission to prevent invasion from the north. We know about Hamas in the south and how they've been building tunnels and trying to penetrate into Israel on the southern border, but now on the northern border, you've got these sophisticated tunnel systems that they have built, and so Israel has found out about this, and they're on an all-out mission to prevent any invasion through these tunnel systems. So they destroyed their cross-border tunnels, and they were demanding UN action against what was happening there. Now, Thursday, Trump said, "My thoughts and prayers are with the USMC crew members who were involved in a mid-air collision off the coast of Japan." And he was thanking the U.S. forces Japan for their immediate response and rescue efforts. He's telling them that we're here for you. Of course, you know, the Islamic Republic is telling Palestinian families that if they want money and a good life, to send their children to die on the border. So the Islamic Republic is stirring up the pot and trying to get people involved in bringing a lot of devastation to Israel. Now, last Monday, breaking news, Paris, France riots. There was fire, broken glass, insane scenes that were taking place. They're protesting, I think, the taxation that's taken place in their country. So things have really gotten out of hand there in France with the rioting. Now, on a Twitter page, the Trump train, it was showing that on the 3rd, there would be a hearing with James Comey, on the 4th with Loretta Lynch, and on the 5th, John Huber. So I haven't heard anything coming out of that, but they were saying don't expect anything from the mainstream media to cover any of this. But it looks like things are progressing as far as, bringing justice to all the corruption in our government system, especially with the FBI and so forth. Now, of course, we know that Trump met with China and the G20 nations in Argentina. And when he met and talked with China, the president, they agreed to reduce and remove tariffs on cars coming into China from the U.S. Currently, the tariff is 40%. So they came to agreement there on reducing the tariff. Last month, there was a Christian pastor who fled Iran as a religious refugee, and he was arrested for privately sharing his faith, his testimony, in the Mall of America in Minnesota. So here, this pastor had fled persecution in Iran and Turkey, only to find persecution in the land of the free and the home of the brave. So he was arrested for sharing his testimony in Minnesota. Vice President Mike Pence tells an Israeli-American conference, if the world knows nothing else, let the world know this: America stands with Israel. Well, that's according to what it says in Genesis chapter 12. I'll bless those that bless you. I'll curse those that curse you. So kudos to our Vice President for standing up for Israel. And then as the Jewish people celebrate Hanukkah, President Trump and our ambassador to the Jewish state reaffirm that the UN cannot take Israel's claim to the holy city. Of course, there's a lot of pressure that's trying to come out of Iran, as well as the Palestinian Authority, etc., to put pressure on the UN. But America is letting their voice be heard that Jerusalem is, and it belongs to Israel. Now, a headline about Netflix. Netflix is under fire for glamorizing teen sex trafficking. So they are making a profit over these victims of abuse. So we'll just have to see how that turns out. And then on Tuesday, tax burden protesters reached tipping point in France. So a lot of turmoil that's taking place in France right now through the protesting. This over here to the side is from Hank Kunneman, and he had this prophetic word on December the 2nd, 2018. And he said, the Spirit of God says, you shall have a praying president. You shall have a praying Congress. You shall have a praying Senate. You shall have a praying Supreme Court. You shall have a praying nation. I am healing this land. Thus says the Spirit of God. So Hank would be the first one to tell you that these prophecies are conditional. God will do his part if we will do our part. But that's what the Spirit of the Lord is saying at this point. And I think that's a great thing. Okay, on Monday, we have the body of President George Herbert Walker Bush that arrived at Elliott Field where an aircraft will then transport it to Washington, D.C. to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda until Wednesday. And so they did have a massive amount of people that came and paid tribute to our former president. Here was on the Twitter page, why did the Obama administration drop a huge terror funding case? In 2014, was a federal investigation into Islamic Relief, one of the world's largest Islamic charities. A criminal case was presented by 3 government agencies, whereupon the Obama administration's Justice Department astounded the agents involved by declining to prosecute. So we're seeing, what the Obama administration, things are being uncovered little by little about what was taking place during the Obama administration. And then Monday, we saw that archaeologists believe they found evidence of an explosion resulting from a low-altitude meteor strike that may have been responsible for destroying cities, villages, and farmland 3,700 years ago in an area located north of the Dead Sea. Was this what caused the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah? Monday also, the Israeli Daily report was that a bronze ring found 50 years ago at the Herodian excavation near Bethlehem has been discovered to bear the name of Pontius Pilate, Roman governor of Jerusalem, and the man who ordered the crucifixion of Jesus, of course, according to the New Testament. So that's proof that Pontius Pilate was there and the Roman governor in Jerusalem, just like the Bible says. Tuesday, after years of pressure, Starbucks finally rolls out a plan to block porn from its public Wi-Fi. Tuesday, House Republicans got hacked during the 2018 campaign. So the FBI is investigating that. And Trump tweeted, UC Berkeley must pay $70,000 and change their policy to guarantee free speech for conservative speakers. The liberals always say that we're the ones that are closed-minded, but they won't even allow conservatives to speak on their campus. And then Wednesday, Republicans on an Idaho House panel have once again agreed to introduce anti-Sharia law legislation designed to prevent Idaho courts from making decisions based on Islamic or other foreign legal codes. In other words, let's stay by the Constitution. And then Wednesday, California's devastating wildfires may have destroyed roughly 95% of paradise, but there was one symbol left standing, and that was the symbol of a cross that was among the ashes. Wednesday also, former NFL great Shaun Alexander prayed over an injured Alabama quarterback. That's good news. And Christian groups fight back against Austin, Texas city code that could force churches to hire LGBTQ employees. So this will be a crucial decision that would have to be made here. It goes to the heart of our religious freedom and the state telling the church what they need to do. And that's not what the Constitution was all about. The Constitution said for the state to stay out, keep their nose out of the business of the church. Anyway, Thursday, Pakistan's prime minister says history has no mention of Jesus, and he urges the West to criminalize blasphemy. And Satanism is coming to town in Illinois, where they're displaying satanic nativity scene in the state capitol. And then Trump tweeted that he has announced he will nominate William Barr as the new Attorney General to replace Jeff Sessions, whom Trump fired for recusing himself from the Russian investigation. Now, William Barr was the former Attorney General for George H.W. Bush, and he's one of the most highly respected lawyers and legal minds in the country. So Trump says he will be a great addition to his team, and he looks forward to having him join his administration. An elementary school principal in Nebraska was placed on leave after telling teachers to avoid decorating their classrooms with Christmas-themed ornamentations so as not to offend those who don't celebrate the holiday. And then Friday, Trump said, "I'm pleased to announce that Heather Nauert, spokeswoman for the U.S. Department of State, will be nominated to serve as the UN ambassador," and he wants to congratulate Heather and also thank Ambassador Nikki Haley for her great service to our country. Also on Friday, we will be doing a major counter report to the Mueller report. This should never again be allowed to happen to a future president of the United States. This is from Trump. He was tweeting this. So Giuliani is putting this together. Of course, it can't be finalized until Mueller turns in his report, but it's about 85 to 90% complete at this moment. So they're willing, or they're ready to counter whatever Mueller has been investigating. Trump said yesterday, "Very sad day and night in Paris. Maybe it's time to end the ridiculous and extremely expensive Paris Agreement and return money back to the people in the form of lower taxes." The United States was way ahead of the curve on that, and the only major country where emissions went down last year. That's good. So Paris is really struggling. France is in turmoil. Also, Trump said, "I'm pleased to announce my nomination of 4-star General Mark Milley, Chief of Staff of the U.S. Army, as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff that will replace General Joe Dunford, who will be retiring." And then finally we have 5,500 bats fall from the sky in Australia. One thing I forgot to do is to show you the chart from the European report that includes all the earthquakes, and you can see that there is an uptick, that it's trending upward, and that deals with New Caledonia, with Ionian Sea, and also Alaska is also quaking and shaking this past week as well. So the combination of those has really done a number on that. And then it didn't report any fireballs on Friday or Saturday. I don't know why, but so I really can't give a report on that, but you can see how the solar winds were very high this week. Even yesterday was at its highest point, almost reaching 600 kilometers per second. Okay, so that concludes our report that we usually give on what's been happening in the world around us. Next, I'll give another video on our lesson. So stay tuned and stay warm and stay out so that you don't fall down. Be careful if you go outside, and hope the power and everything stays on for you good. So far, so good here since it came back on. So we'll be talking to you later.